Hey beautiful humans, I'm RidersDX and today we're going to talk about 10 extremely awesome characters that I would love to see appear in Crash Team Rumble. Now these characters in particular, these are not characters that are actually a part of the Crash Bandicoot franchise, but third-party characters that I think would make amazing guests for Crash Team Rumble. Now, a few caveats before we get into this list. One, it isn't necessarily the 10 characters I personally want to see the most, because I also decided to think about the fact, like, are these characters realistic at all in terms of like how many ties do they have to Crash Bandicoot's parent companies that would potentially lead them to being able to be in this game in the first place. So there's no Nintendo exclusive characters, there's no Sony exclusive characters right off the bat, because as much as I would love to see characters like Mario and Zelda in this game, I mean, the game is not even on a Nintendo console. I don't see how in any kind of circumstance those characters would appear in this game. So this list is vaguely based off of my own preferences, but I also took into consideration the fact that it'd be more likely to see some like Microsoft IPs in here and also some other Activision IPs in here, and so I use that to basically craft this list. However, I did throw in like one or two choices in here that aren't realistic at all, but I personally just would love to see it so much that I'm gonna advocate for it. So here we go. At number 10, we got Tracer from Overwatch, and so I'm gonna be perfectly real with you all. I haven't played Overwatch like at all, so I don't know anything about this franchise besides the fact that it's extremely popular and it's also an Activision Blizzard IP. And so with those facts alone, considering the fact that this is another multiplayer game, I just think it makes too much sense to have some kind of crossover to coincide with these two games. You know, you already have a very successful multiplayer online game in your grasp already, and you want to launch another one. Try to get some of the audience of that established game to come into this game. Now, as for Tracer herself, I don't know much about her character personally, but I do know she's considered an offense character in the game, and so it sounds like she would be a good blocker to me. That's the most aggressive player type over here, and that'd be really interesting because she obviously uses long range weapons, and so it'd be really cool to kind of see a blocker maneuver in that way compared to Dingodile, who's very much a close range blocker. I think she's a really good choice to kick off the list. At number 9, Guitar Hero is one of Activision's most iconic franchises of all time, and there is no doubt in my mind that Activision wants to revive this franchise in some way. And so I think it'd be very goofy. You just had some random guitar player NPC be in this game, and all the moves are associated with using a guitar. So you could do things like shoot sound waves at players, whack people with your electric guitar. I think that would just be such a cool character to put in here, and you can make them as wacky as you want because I don't think Guitar Hero really has an established main protagonist, and so they could literally do whatever they want with this character. Just tying it in with Guitar Hero would be a really cool way to promote that franchise if they do want to bring that back, which I'm like pretty certain they will at some point. I could see whoever this player is be a booster, but they could also be a blocker. It literally could be any kind of character, but I do think having some kind of Guitar Hero representation here would be pretty cool. At number 8, this is a choice I'm pretty sure most of you are not gonna know anything about, but this is personally one of my favorite Microsoft games of all time, and that is Viva Pinata. And so Viva Pinata, there isn't really a true mascot to the franchise, but the closest one you could come to, it's Hudson from the TV show. He's also on the cover of the first Viva Pinata game, and so I would think that's probably the closest choice they could have in terms of a main representation from this franchise. I think Viva Pinata is such an underrated game. It basically is like a 3D Stardew Valley. You curate this garden, you try to like reel pinatas into it, you try to take care of them, and it's kind of like a nice mishmash between Stardew Valley and Pokemon, and it's just such a nice relaxing time, and I would love for this franchise to come back one day. I also just think the character designs from this franchise are so great, and so having Hudson from that game be in Crash Team Rumble would be, again, another great way to try to revive some franchises. Now, as for Hudson, he seems like he'd be best as a blocker to me, but that's not a total like has to be kind of character, but he definitely does strike me more as an offensive player. At number 7, we're just going with like the really off-ball choices here so far, but I love to see Tony Hawk appear in this game. So Tony Hawk, I feel like is actually more likely than people might give him credit for, because the Tony Hawk remaster actually had a couple Crash Bandicoot references, if I'm remembering correctly. So Tony Hawk's games are already tied somewhat to Crash Bandicoot games, and also I think Tony Hawk would just be such a hilarious character to see in this game. Obviously he's a skateboarder, so he would maneuver everywhere through skateboarding, and since skateboarding requires a lot of like intricate technical tricks and stuff to master, I feel like Booster for Tony Hawk would be the most effective class for him. Although I guess I could see him as a collector as well. Depends on what the developers want to do. But I just think that would be so funny to see him just skateboarding around Crash Team Rumble and doing his thing. Number 6, we're going to go on to Microsoft IP, and I think this is probably going to be a no-brainer. I feel like if Microsoft really does want to include some third-party IPs in there, this is probably the most likely choice we're going to get from there. But Steve from Minecraft would most likely appear in this game. Now, I'm not a Minecraft player or anything like that, but I do recognize that it's one of the most impactful gaming franchises of all time. And so having Steve from Minecraft be put in this game would be a huge deal. It would definitely reel in a lot of new players to Crash Team Rumble, and I think that's just a perfect way to establish a new audience for Crash Team Rumble. I also think that they should put Crash in Minecraft. I mean, a bunch of other platforming franchises have had crossovers with Minecraft, and so I feel like that's such a light bulb move to just go and do. You know, just they're both going to be multiplayer games. They're both trying to grow their audiences. I really think a crossover between these two franchises is just a no-brainer, especially once that Microsoft deal goes through. Steve, I feel like would be a collector. I mean, I feel like that's just the whole nature of Minecraft already, is like collecting and building things, so that makes the most sense to me. At number 5, yeah, it's a really odd choice, but I think it would be the most insane thing if we saw Master Chief from the Halo series come into Crash Team Rumble. I can totally picture already like Master Chief being teleported in here, having some drawn out monologue about where he is and where he's been coming from, and then you just have Crash just come into the scene and just spin into him and knock him over. I just think it'd be the most funny and weird things to witness, and I just think that just is Crash Bandicoot as a whole. Crash Bandicoot is really unhinged, is really chaotic. I just think it would really suit the nature of it. I don't know how likely Master Chief would be, because it definitely is a clash of branding ideas between Halo and Crash Bandicoot, but if they really want Crash Bandicoot to be a true Microsoft like property from here on out, I feel like this is one of the biggest ways it could go about establishing that. At number 4, this is definitely the most likely choice in this list, and I feel like it would just be wrong not to include him in this list. I also would love to see him in the game. I'm pretty certain that we're going to, but Spyro the Dragon is definitely going to be a part of Crash Team Rumble. If I'm remembering correctly, there's already some evidence to his appearance in this game, so basically just have to wait and see whenever he's going to be announced. But Spyro, of course, he's practically a part of the Crash Bandicoot franchise at this point, especially if they refuse to release another game for him, and so I can totally see Spyro being a very effective collector over here, since of course his games are all about collecting all those gems and progressing through the levels through that manner. I can't wait to see what they would do with him in terms of moveset though, since he's such an aerial character. Are they going to give him the ability to fly? I think that'd be such a weird, cool way to incorporate his moveset into Crash Team Rumble. Number 3, this is a choice that I think makes the most sense out of all Microsoft IPs for Crash Team Rumble, but I don't know how likely it is, just because Microsoft just doesn't seem to care about this franchise one bit. But BanjoKazooie would be an amazing choice to come in here. Obviously, they would be a collector. I mean, the games are collectathon, so that makes the most sense. But BanjoKazooie, there was so much hype behind them coming into Smash Brothers. You definitely would get at least a fraction of that hype into Crash Team Rumble, and that's still a lot of hype. So I really do feel like BanjoKazooie would be a really great addition to Crash Team Rumble. Not only would it get Crash Team Rumble a lot of exposure, but if Microsoft is intelligent and actually is planning to reboot them in some manner, then this is the way to do it. Then number 2, okay, this is going to be my choice that is absolutely not going to happen. This is my card. I'm pulling my card right now to put out a choice that in no way in hell are we ever going to see happen over here, but nonetheless, I just think it would be like the most amazing news in the world if we got this character. But SpongeBob SquarePants in Crash Team Rumble, yep, you all saw it coming. SpongeBob, man, he would be such an amazing addition to this game. He would either be a really great booster or a collector, you know, depending on how you view him. Do you want him to be more like himself in the show or the games, or vice versa? I don't know. I'm just speaking nonsense at this point. But SpongeBob, I mean, such a maneuverable character. There's so much potential in terms of using his sponginess to really like craft out his moveset. And also, he's just a fun character. Who doesn't love SpongeBob? He totally fits in the wacky mood of Crash Team Rumble. If you wanted to, you could even give him a water helmet. I mean, honestly, it would be just such a crazy choice, but it would get so many people into Crash Team Rumble. It would really establish Crash Team Rumble as a Fortnite like experience in terms of like, you really have no idea who's gonna get into this game next. next. And so if they really want to go in that direction, Crash Team Rumble, then that would be an amazing thing to do if they got someone as high profile as SpongeBob. Before we end the video, quick shout out to Alan Luquini who put this in my last video. Bro, I remember being hyped for CTR NF when watching your videos right when you posted them to see your thoughts about it, and now 4 years later I'm doing the very same thing. Alan, I love comments like this. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for sticking with me to this very point. But now let's go ahead and get into our number one choice. At number one, this choice is actually very unlikely as well. Like, I just have never seen this franchise interact with Crash, but it would suit Crash Team Rumble so well, and would just be a great way to have like platformers like supporting each other, and I think it would cause a lot of hype as well. But Sonic the Hedgehog being in this game would be such a great thing. By the way, I totally took this video idea from Blue Knight. I think I forgot to mention that at the beginning, and I think Blue Knight actually had Sonic as his number one as well. But I mean, honestly, like, who else would be a better addition to Crash Team Rumble than Sonic the Hedgehog? He's a platforming icon just like Crash Bandicoot. He's highly maneuverable. His speed would definitely be his most enticing factor as a character in this game. I think he'd be a really effective booster in particular just because he can move around so well. He would really be great at like getting those boost pads, and I guess he would be a good collector as well in that same sense. And so he would definitely have a lot of crossover between those two classes. Instead of like a double jump, he could do like a jump dash or even like a homing attack if you really want to annoy players. I just think that he's got so much potential in terms of his moveset, and also he's just such an iconic character, and it would be so cool to see Crash Bandicoot team up with Sonic the Hedgehog in that way. Like, that would just be such an amazing addition. I know it's not gonna happen, but I mean, then again, you never really know. Sonic seems to be very open to crossovers. I mean, he has like a Minecraft thing, for instance, so you really never know. But alright, y'all, that is my very unhinged list of 10 characters I'd love to see in Crash Team Rumble. But let me know what your choices are in the comment section below. What characters would you love to see? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But otherwise, thank y'all so much. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to keep up with more Crash Team Rumble news. The game is literally out in less than a month, so we're going to go all out in terms of Crash Team Rumble content. I'm really excited for this game. I still can't stop thinking about that beta. It was so much fun. But alright, y'all, thank you so much. This is Riders.